Hey everybody, how's it going? Today is Saturday and it is time to hang out in the garage for a little bit. What are we gonna do? We're gonna work on a project. That one, right there. So I don't have my executive producer today. We have this producer here for standby. He's a little camera shy right now. What we're doing today is we are going to work on the exhaust. You can see where I've got it to here. It needs to loop down, go into the turbo. So we gotta go from here and I'll get a shot, go down and around and into the turbo right there. It necks down quite a bit, which I don't like how small this inlet is. But when I was looking for a turbo, this one should match up with the engine size fairly well. So I hope it does. If it doesn't, we'll run it for a while, see how it does, and then maybe upgrade to a bigger one. The challenges today is right here's the shifter. This is how it's supposed to go. I might take it off, flip it around to where it's closer this way. But the foot pegs are right in this area. I've got the seat on. That's not the seat we're gonna use because it's ugly and it doesn't really fit what I'm going for, but I've got it on to kind of get an idea of where my knee is gonna be. And my knee will be like right in this area. So I need to bend this, get this bent in, down and around and down into the turbo and miss a few obstacles. One, my leg or whoever's going to be riding it, their leg. The intake, I don't want it to be too close to that. And then also this is the starter, so I don't want it to get the starter too hot. So far is what I've got my header pipe collector, and then I've got this expansion piece of exhaust. The reason I'm using that expansion piece, in just a second here, we're going to walk over here to some of the scrap stuff that I've already messed up using. Let me grab this. This is what I'm talking about. That's what's underneath that tape. The reason I'm putting this in is to give the exhaust a little bit of flex. It's all hard mounted. And if there's no really anywhere for the exhaust to expand and contract as it gets hot and cold, it's going to start cracking welds. So I'm hoping putting this in, it's going to help with that. The plan is once it gets all routed, these two bolts here, spots from the case, there'll be a mount that'll hold this here. Of course, it'll mount onto the heads. And then I don't know if we'll put another mount in there. I think that probably should be sufficient for the weight of the exhaust. So today is to get that done. This probably looks weird. I've got tape over this, so when I weld, it kind of helps. And I've got some splatter spray too that I spray on it, but this helps keep some of the splatter off of that when I'm welding, and then I'll just peel it off and it'll look great and wonderful. The last part of the exhaust, which I don't think we'll get too far on today, is going to be the exit, which is going to come here and around, is what the goal is. I have got, I believe it's 2-inch, if I can find it here. So this is going to be the exit of the exhaust. This is going to be what comes off of this flange right here on the turbo. It's going to go like that. I don't know if it's going to go straight or kind of down a little bit. I think it's probably due down a little bit. It also, if you can see, there's a huge, it's a little ways away from the frame. It's probably like 4 or 5 inches. Thank you, Archie, for helping. So I'm going to cut. So this end will be cut down a little bit so it hugs the frame. And then on this end, we're probably going to do like a slash cut so it looks cooler than just staying out just a flat, straight cut. And as you can tell, this doesn't cover up the whole flange. And that's how I'm going to address that, is by doing this. We'll set this in the vise, my extra set of hands. So the plan is I'm going to take and make something like this. Got to work on that a little bit. And this will just get welded on. Something like this will get welded on to make up for that extra space that it needs. And then this piece from here to here, will be cut off to where this is just one solid piece. And it shrinks it down to go out the tube. This is going to be more than enough size pipe for that bike. I have seen where people will like block off part of this to make it fit the tube. So the tube will be up here on top and then this bottom part will be blocked off. That works. I don't like that idea. I would like it, you know, if there's this whole big opening, if this is the size that it is, I would like for that much to be open. Honestly, with the size of this turbo, the size of this engine, that bit of restriction probably isn't going to matter as much, especially with as much, you know, downsizing I have to go to get it, the inlet to the turbo. Let's get started. Okay, this is what we got so far. We have my flange that I made here. This is going to be the exhaust tube that's going to S shape down into right here where the turbo sits. The flange that it's going to weld to, I'm going to weld it to this, and this is going to be two purposes. It's going to be part of the exhaust, but down on the back side of here is where the turbo mounts, and then it mounts to the frame right there. That will fit. It looks like it's a little long, but it'll match up in just a second here. You'll see. The other thing, I think I'm good on my distance where my intake's gonna sit. When it's all tacked together and welded up, it'll be away from the intake, and I think it's gonna be far enough away from the starter and from the shifter. I mean, there's the shifter, and then if I can kind of see, it's kind of hard to see right here. I mean, it's kind of close, but I think that's as close as I'm going to be able to snug it from my leg, the intake, and everything else. Think it'll work, and if it doesn't, and I start riding it around, I guess I will cut this piece out and remake it. So let's keep going. This is it. I didn't really record any of it because it was, you know, tedious cutting, welding together. The welds are all right. I am not a professional welder, so they aren't the prettiest. They're gonna hold though, and I think it is going to work. So we have coming down and around, and then into the turbo right here, our mount. So next project is to get this completely out, the end of the turbo, and then after that we need to work on the intake side. But let's put the tank and the intake on it where we can see what that looks like. So this is what it looks like with the tank on it. That seat is the old one. It will not stay on there, but that is the exhaust. That goes. Plenty of room around the head to where the head and the exhaust can breathe. The intake is not sitting in there how it should. It's just kind of leaning in there, but it'll sit. Now if I can get it back in there. Sits like that. A little bit of room, a little more room, but it'll work. So I'll finish the exhaust, and then next we need to do our intake, our piping from the turbo to the intake, and mounting the carburetor on this side. So the carburetor is going to sit right here, and there'll be an intake off the carburetor. It'll pull through the fuel into the air, into the intake, into the engine. So next weekend we will do that, and maybe I will be riding this thing this summer. Thank you for watching.